Ladies and gentlemen, it's your friend Mike Brady from Oceanliner Designs. Sorry if my standby screen scared you for a minute into thinking I was having technical difficulties, but I don't think I'm having technical difficulties. For the first time ever, I've got my two lights burning bright. I should have brought my sunscreen and my sunglasses. And I've even got a coffee. So I am ready. Hey everyone, how are you? How exciting. We've got a whole bunch of people here. I think we've got about 100 already watching. How you doing? How good. I assume a few of them may not have been to one of my live streams before. So if you haven't, it's great to have you here. Welcome. Really exciting. The channel's grown a lot in the last couple of weeks. Commodore Rubik says it's his first live stream, and also mentioned that he had watched all of my videos in like 2 weeks, which is remarkable because I don't think I could do that. That's just a lot of it's a lot of ship history in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? It must be mic overload. You know, you're getting a little bit sick of seeing my face. You come to a live stream, now you get to see me again. Hello, we've got so many people saying hi. Daniel Huffman says he's doing extraordinarily well, which is exciting. The British lad says, "I love my vids." Thank you. I love you back, British lad. Very exciting. There's actually a structure to this live stream for the first time ever. This is radical stuff. But I'm actually going to do things in order and have a little structure. So we'll do a little hi and back and forth. And then what I've got lined up, we've got some channel news. So there's actually quite a few things going on, which are really exciting, which I can't wait to tell you guys about. Some things that will really surprise you and blindside you a little bit, but that's exciting. And then we'll also be going through a bit of a Q&A. I'll answer any of your ship questions if you got them. And then I thought, because it's the channel's second birthday, it just turned 2, I thought we could go back and look at some of my old videos, and I'll just kind of tell you a little bit of the behind the scenes on how they were made, why I made them in the first place, and kind of like some of my favorite videos, some of my least favorite videos for various reasons. And then right at the end, we've got a showcase of the patron and Oceanliner's member and longtime friend of the channel, Alexius. We'll have a look at one of his Minecraft models, which will be really exciting. Anyway, in the meantime, so many people saying hi. Stephen Manclark says, "I'm watching you instead of I'm a celebrity," which I'll take as a compliment. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it. Nonsensical Nautical Rambling says, "Maybe this will end well. I hope so." And I would also add that Nonsensical Nautical Ramblings was one of the people who said, "I bet Mike's going to have technical difficulties." And sorry to prove you wrong, not to jinx it or anything like that. Andy Rocket says, talk about Achille Lauro. Yeah, Achille Lauro is really interesting. We'll just do a little back and forth. You guys send me questions and I'll answer what I can. The Achille Lauro is really a really interesting story. I think Bright Sun Films, another YouTube channel, did a really good video on the Achille Lauro, which is annoying because I wanted to cover it and I still may. But yeah, the ship burned. She was part of the Flotta Lauro lines, which was this Italian, originally immigrant carrier from Europe. You know, I talk about those lines a lot in my videos. And they had some rotten luck with these two very beautiful ships. And they're originally Dutch built. I'm not sure if Achille Lauro was the Orangi, but she was one of these, you know, gorgeous Dutch ships. And just had really rotten luck. Achille Lauro was lost. It was a real tragedy. There was a hijacking. It was a whole thing. So yeah, if you look up Achille Lauro on YouTube, you watch Bright Sun's film. It's very good. I've got some super chats coming through. One of them from Kaiser Wilhelm II. Kaiser Wilhelm, big fan of your high seas fleet from the First World War. Kaiser, how good to have a historic character joining us today. Can we just give a hand for Kaiser Wilhelm II, who is speaking to us apparently from beyond the grave? He's asking whether or not the Lusitania game, which I'm working on, has been cancelled, to which I have to emphatically say, no, it has not been cancelled. Some of you may not know this, but I am a bit of a advisor to a video game that's coming out called Lusitania: The Greyhound's Wake. And it's a full virtual recreation of the exterior of the Lusitania, a lot of the interior, some of these gorgeous public rooms. I've played some alpha builds of the ship, not to show off or anything, and it's unbelievable. If you're interested in these classic ocean liners, you'll be fascinated to be able to walk the decks of the Lusitania like I've been able to. Some of these rooms are incredible and far more luxurious, in my opinion, than the Titanic or the Olympic, which surprises a lot of people. But, you know, if you stand in the dining saloon on the Lusitania and you look up and it's 2 stories tall with this huge dome at the top, it's really a sight. So no, it's going very well. It's super exciting. I know updates are slow, but we're a very, very small team. I mean, there's 2 or 3 key people working on it full time, and then a couple of small part-time advisors like me. And my role was making the hull. So when you play the game, you'll see all the exterior details, all the rivets in the hull. That was me, copying, pasting a million rivets. QM Part 4. I already made Queen Mary Part 4, I think. No, maybe I just made Queen Mary Part 3. This is a running gag on my Discord server. My Discord users and patrons bully me into just making videos about the Queen Mary. And then nobody watches them. Airwicker says, hi, Mike. Airwicker is another patron. Hello, Airwicker. New Titanic video when? Because I don't make enough Titanic videos, apparently. There you go. Queen Mary Part 4. Yes, Queen Mary Part 4. I'll do it. I will do it. Queen Mary had a really interesting wartime record when she was called the Grey Ghost. And she was one of the fastest troop ships in the Allied arsenal. And I think Winston Churchill attributed the Second World War's end date, you know, of April, sorry, not the Second World Wars, but the defeat of Europe's end date at April 1945, in part attributed that to the Queen Mary and the Queen Elizabeth, who combined in a single trip, if they were sailing side by side, could carry in the region of 30,000 troops, which is two whole divisions of men, which is absolutely unbelievable. Fascinating bit of history, so I will go into that. Erika Itsumi has joined as a channel member. Welcome aboard, Erika Itsumi. Great to have you on board. As always, I end up talking and miss a lot of what you guys are saying. So I'm going to do my best to keep up. Momo Hanakai says, hi, Mike. How are you doing? I wonder if you remember me. I remember everybody. I don't know if you've changed your username, Momo, but let me know where I would know you from. I'm not sure I recognize the username, but if you give me a little clue, I'm sure I'll be able to jog my memory. Lumos has donated 99 New Zealand cents. Thank you very much. Not enough Titanic. Dwayvern says, hi Mike, did you ever get the mail I sent you? People have been sending me things, which is amazing, and something I never expected. So that, up there, that little wooden block there that you can see, there's a big chunk of Olympics deck planking that was sent to me by a viewer, which is so lovely and not at all, you know, what I would have expected going into this. And then a week ago, I went to collect something that I think Dwayvern has sent me, and it was stolen. And I meant to write to you, Dwayvern, to let you know, but someone actually broke in to this mailroom and stole all of the packages that were waiting collection, and the one you sent me was one of them, which is very disappointing, and as you can tell, I'm not very happy about that. But I'll get in touch with you and we'll sort it out. Lewis says, hope you're doing well, Mike. Love your content. Thanks so much, Lewis. I've been very sick the last couple of weeks, but I am back better than ever now. I'm doing myself. I'm trying to take better care of myself and not work so much. Let me know if this stream is like lagging a little bit as well, guys, because I'm going to try and fix it up, see how I go. Evergreen Gaming says, can we hear more about the SS Norway? Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do a more in-depth video because this is just one of those ships. I think I covered it in my Bad Ship Makers video. Man, tripping over myself. Bad Ship Makeovers video. Which is a little bit unfair because the Norway had, again, just one of those extraordinary careers. And it's one of the few ships that was repackaged and overhauled and had a completely separate career to what it was originally intended for. That should not have worked. I don't know how many of you guys follow the cruise industry, I guess, and what differentiates a cruise ship and an ocean liner being not just what they're intended for, right? So I always used the metaphor that a ocean liner is like a bus. It's going somewhere, you know, regardless of the weather, it has to go, you know, you're getting to your destination. It's just designed to go from A to B. Whereas a cruise ship is like a party limousine. You can sail around, you can, you know, just take it easy and relax, and they usually skirt around bad weather. It means that ocean liners have to be built differently if they're intended for ocean liner use, ocean liner purposes. They have to be super strong in a lot of areas. If they're intended for service in the North Atlantic, like France was, the SS France, which became the Norway, then they need to be heavily, heavily reinforced and designed to deal with the cold very well. So they're not really adept at tropical adventures and tropical cruising. This was very well demonstrated with two ships from history. We'll take an aside from the Norway for a second. We'll talk about the Rotterdam and say the Italian lines Leonardo da Vinci, for example. Rotterdam went on to have a hugely successful career as a cruise ship once the ocean liner market dried up, because the jet plane had come along and people could get to their destination a lot faster than if you were sailing by ship. It meant that all these old ocean liners suddenly were out of a job, really, and a lot of them were repurposed as cruise ships. Now, Rotterdam and a number of other Dutch ships did very well because a lot of the class segregation, so a lot of the barriers and the things put in place to segregate the classes, weren't either permanent, so there were like barriers that could be taken down relatively easily to open the spaces up, or they could be easily converted. This meant that when you get away from this class segregated ocean liner, you know, world where you pay for a third class ticket, you're just stuck down in third class. It means that if those barriers are up by the time you want your ship to be a cruise ship, it's very hard to get around the ship because, for example, in France's case, it was as an ocean liner, it was designed to be a little more difficult for the various classes to get around. You don't want them intermingling, you know, purely because you didn't pay for a first class ticket. You paid for a second class ticket, you stay in second class. Whereas the Rotterdam and some of these other ships, it was a lot easier than if the crew wanted to, say, have a cruise, or the company wanted to have a cruise for the ship and have it totally open plan and only a one class cruise. You could open it up and people could walk through. So it meant that the Rotterdam had a greatly successful career. Leonardo da Vinci, for example, the Italian ocean liner, would not have worked as a cruise ship because it was a lot harder for passengers to get around and to convert the ship into a one-class cruise ship, right? For that reason, Norway should not have worked. Norway was an ocean liner originally, the SS France. She was a transatlantic ocean liner, so she was designed for cold water voyages. And she was built as a multiple class ship. Therefore, all the formula is there for a ship that should probably not have worked as an ocean liner, but it did. They converted it. They did a great job of converting it. They put a lot of thought into it. And sure enough, she went on to have a hugely successful career as the SS Norway. So yeah, fascinating tale. And yeah, I'd love to cover it in more detail. Those are my thoughts on cruise ships and things. That was actually not an original thought of mine. That was taken from a paper that Stephen Payne wrote. He was the chief designer of the Queen Mary 2 project. Massive ocean liner fan. Very interesting guy. And that was a theory that he put forward about why some ships did very well as cruise ships and others not so well, in part purely because of the way they were built. So that's my long tangent on the Norway. We've got some more super chats, and then I have to give you guys the really exciting news, which I can't wait to go into. So I'm just going to answer these, and then we'll go through them. Stephen Hemingway, I'm not sure if any relation to the famous author Ernest. Have you thought about a presentation on the three Olympic sisters, as each one had different, had more first-class rooms? The Titanic would have had a children's playroom. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do a whole documentary series of very comprehensive history of the Olympic class from start to finish, as like a 10-part series, and each episode like 30 minutes long, because it's so interesting, I think. So many people say the Olympic class are overdone and not that interesting. I would disagree. You guys know me. I love I love all ocean liners equally. There's no one single ocean liner I could point at and say, I hate this ship. But the Olympic class for a lot of people is where it all began. You know, we're all fascinated by the Titanic. You've got equal measures, tragedy, Titanic and the Britannic, absolute triumph and success with the Olympic. You know, what a hero ship ramming down and destroying the SMU-103, the German U-boat. Olympic's own share of tragedy, you know, the impact with the Nantucket Lightship, becoming a celebrated troop ship, incredible career, and then what could have been with the Britannic. So there's just so many angles you can come at it from, and I think, yeah, I would love to go into more detail and compare the three ships against each other in more detail, but maybe that'll be a future project. That could be great fun. Andy Art says, this is definitely one of the streams of all time. Thank you. You guys might not know the name Andy Arts, but he's a very talented 3D modeler. And in fact, for my HMAS Sydney video, he modeled the gun turrets for the ship. So if you've seen that video when you've seen the gun battle, you see Sydney's gun turrets swiveling around and pointing at the cormorant. Those are Andy's gun turrets. And I asked him to make these gun turrets up and you know, I paid him for it and said, hey, can you do this for me? Make them rough. You know, I just need something that vaguely looks like a gun turret. And he got it back to me with all the rivets. he had all the bolts and the rivets in the side of it. It was so detailed. So he's very, very talented. His specialty is lighthouses. He's very, very talented 3D modeler. Uh-oh, we've got Historic Travels has left a comment. We'll come up to that in a second. I just got to answer. Peden Harley has left a comment. It says, Mike, I love the alt histories about Titanic, Britannic. You're a great storyteller. I hope we see more along the same lines. Thank you. I love doing them because it's my opportunity to just go wild with it and have fun and, you know, go wild. I mean, the Britannic one was totally out there, you know, coming up with turning the ships into the HMS or HMT Resolute and sinking it horribly and killing like 6,000 people in a twisted way. It was a lot of fun. But I'll talk about that in a minute because I want to talk about some of my old videos and how I made them, and I think you guys would be interested in that. I Am Boat says, in your opinion, which is better, Lusitania or Mauritania? I love... people always do this to me. Which do you like better? I love them all. You don't understand. I love them all. It's like picking between your children, you know. The Lusitania had stunning interiors. Absolutely gorgeous. I'm a real sucker for white enamel walls, big columns, you know, very tall and tiled floors. I love that. Mauritania had a lot more timber. Was therefore a little darker on the inside, which was still beautiful. But I think Mauritania's career really sucks you in if you read about it. Lusitania didn't get the opportunity to have that big of a career, of course, which is quite sad, but Mauritania became a legend. So I'll lean more towards Mauritania. Historic Travels, the famous YouTuber, Historic Travels, you should check out his channel, says, who says Olympic class are overdone? Let's take them on, Mike. Charge! Old reliable forever. Also, congrats on channel success. Thank you, my friend. When I first started on YouTube, Historic Travels had been making videos, and that was a little inspiration for me, you know, to make YouTube, because I thought, you know, here's people making all this great content. I've got my own things I want to talk about, and Historic Travels was one of the channels that kind of inspired me to do it. So it's lovely to see you, Sam. Ages ago, maybe like a year and a half or 2 years ago, I recorded a video with Tom Linsky, who is on YouTube as Part-Time Explorer, and it was called Bullship. And I don't know, probably none of you have seen it. I think there was like a couple of people watched this video. It's like one of the least watched videos on my channel, but it was super fun. It was a game show where we tried to trick each other with fake Oceanliner and history facts and then compare and see who got him right or who got him wrong. He's very good. I think he beat me by 1 point. I want to do it again. I think we could do it in a live stream. I want to have Sam on, and maybe Bradley from Big Old Boats, this other YouTube channel, and we can have like a little Oceanliner trivia game. We can play some bullshit. So Sam, if you're interested in that, let's do it. Thanks so much for your donation as well. Thanks, guys. The super chats always blow me away. I never expect this amount. Flux Kitten Gaming says, I've heard that the firemen from Britannic escaped first. Any idea what happened to them after that? No, I would have to probably do some more reading on that. It's very, very easy to get out of the boiler rooms. of the Olympic class ships and other ships. The grates at the top, at the base of the funnel, so all the way at the top of the ships. If you've played Titanic, Honor and Glory, or other games like that, or been on a historic ship, if you're in the boiler room, down in the boiler casing, there are so many escape ladders to get up and out of the ship very quickly. So if you've got good arm strength, it'll probably be a lot faster climbing up those ladders than going up, you know, through the passageways and corridors and out through the ship, because it's just basically an empty shaft running straight up and out of the ship with a series of ladders and stairways straight up. So I can see why they would have been some of the first to get out. And I hope I haven't missed any of these. I think someone talked about a video on the Great Eastern. Here we go. Yes, Russell Foster says, video on the SS Great Britain or the Great Eastern. Thank you for your super chat. Yes, Isambard Kingdom Brunel is one of the most interesting characters of all time. He was a British railway engineer who had a crack at designing ships, and the scale of the projects that he embarked on with no shipbuilding experience really is absolutely fascinating. And he's a bit of a hero of mine. I love that the Great Britain is still around. You can actually go and visit this ship, and fundamentally she's basically the first Oceanliner at her core. And the Great Eastern story is fascinating, if only because it was designed to come to Australia. And in an alternate history, it never made it, right? In an alternate history, I would have loved to have seen the Great Eastern tied up in Melbourne Harbour in photograph. Would have been so cool. I would have loved to have seen it in real life, but I don't know. I'd be a little old if I was born in the 1850s. Taylor Lewis, do you think you'll do an alt timeline where both Titanic and Britannic don't sink in the same timeline? Potentially, yeah. I don't want to like mine the topic too hard, but you know, it is interesting to imagine what might have happened. Would it have displaced Cunard as the premier British passenger carrier on the transatlantic? I'm not sure, because Cunard had very, very strong admiralty and political connections thanks to her chairman Percy Bates, just the company's history. And White Star was pretty badly mismanaged, I think, through the 20s and 30s when IMM, the American owners, fell apart. It's hard to say. I still see Cunard coming out on top. It's interesting. Yeah, that's to be decided. But yeah, I might talk about that a bit more. Alexis says, new drawings when? We miss your drawings. Yeah. I haven't had too much time to draw, guys. Making videos is now basically my full-time gig. And it's sad because I like drawing, you know. It was a hobby, but when you're working 9 to 5 on the computer and then you want to relax by drawing and your drawings are on the computer, you just, you spend like a whole day sitting on the computer. It's not that fun. I am boat Mauritania or Lusitania. I did just approach that question, but thank you so much for the $2 donation, my friend. Really appreciate it. Okay, I'm just going to answer one or two more of these and then give you guys the exciting news because I'm like, I can't wait to get this out. Sebastian Asadi, hello Sebastian, he says, hey Mike, any opinions on the Ile-de-France? Yeah, as always, there are so many ships and so little time. Like, I'd love to make an in-depth video on all of these, but yeah, Ile-de-France, French liner, built in the 20s, and like flagship of French lines, I think, for a while there. And absolutely spectacular on the inside. And all of those French line ships from the France of, 1910 and all the way through to Ile-de-France. Yeah, I'd love to do more in-depth videos. I did speak a little about her in my Queen Mary versus Normandy video from a few weeks ago. So if you're interested in learning more about French line, go and check that out because it's fascinating. Like their approach, each line had a different approach to making ocean liners. Cunard early on was just going for speed, luxury and size, of course, but the predominant thing was speed and a reliable service. White Star Line didn't want to go for speed so much, but wanted to provide comfort and sheer size and luxury and power. Whereas French Line figured, through the 1910s and 1920s that where they could provide a unique flavor was in absolute sheer luxury. And so a lot of these ships in first and second class look like the Palace of Versailles, and they really were just floating art palaces. It's spectacular. Flux Kitten Gaming, we answered that one about the fireman from the Britannic. Now, let's talk about some exciting channel news. What do you guys think? First of all, my patrons already know all about this. These are officers' caps that the navigating officers on my Patreon will be getting. I have been getting these manufactured and still sending them out, so I don't think anyone's got them yet, but you'll be getting them in the next couple weeks. And already I feel like more of a maritime authority. Will you guys take me more seriously if I wear these in my videos and not question my sources? Oh, we've got so many more super chats coming through. Okay, all right, I'll answer these and I'll get back to I'll tell you the news in like 5 minutes. Okay, we're putting a hard stop. 5 minutes at 5:30. I'm telling you my news. Russell Foster says, I paid premium to tell you we love your work. You make a lot of people happy. What can you say to that? You know, you start doing this for fun, for a hobby, and people, you know, it resonates with people, and yeah, I love it. So thank you. Your comments are so lovely, and they always make me a little yeah, a little giddy. Like I just started doing this for fun, you know. I never thought it would become a job. I never thought people would enjoy it so much. So really appreciate hearing from you guys. So thank you so much, Russell. That's such a lovely comment. Yeah, it makes me feel all nice inside. Thank you. Brendan Thor, which I may have actually said incorrectly. I think that's a German surname. Thor has donated $20, which is lovely. Thank you so much. He says, so your vid mentioning the third-class English mother playing piano with her child on Titanic inspired me to research, whether I could find their identity. They aren't among the victims. No one fits. They may have survived. Yeah, I mean, you'd like to think so. I think, yeah, that was a sad video to make. It was a bit grim. And were people trapped in the Titanic? I think so few bodies were recovered proportionately after Titanic sank. And a lot of people were still in that stern section when it went down. I talked to J. Kent Layton, who is the historian, in part, one of the authors, a third of the authorship of this book. That guy. He told me about that story and told me that, you know, that was the last time they were seen, was in the third-class general room playing the piano. Whether they stayed there or whether they actually got out on deck is unknown. But it's a sad story regardless. But keep up the good work. See if you can find anyone. It would be unfortunately difficult if they were separated and were recovered to link them. You know, you might have an unidentified child and then over here, unidentified woman. It's really sad stuff. If you guys read Encyclopedia Titanica, the website, and they've got full descriptions of all the passengers that were recovered, what they were wearing, their initials sewn into their shirt, you know, their flannel pajamas, you know, the rings that they had, and in the hope that that would help identify them in an era before DNA testing. Shockingly sad, but yeah, very, very interesting reading. So yeah, keep it up, Brendan. See what you can find out. Henry Tischbein says, hi Sam, how are you doing? I don't know if this is directed at me or at Sam from Historic Travels. So Sam from Historic Travels, if you're watching this may be a question for you. Hi Sam, how are you doing? Would you do Cunard QE2 and Concorde trip back in the 90s? Yeah, you sail on Queen Elizabeth II one way and fly Concorde the other way. Can you imagine? Oh, that's the dream. I mean, that would be amazing. You sail from, what do you think? QE2, so you take Queen Elizabeth II from say, Southampton into New York Harbor, have like a week's holiday in, you know, New York and on the East Coast, and then fly back to, say, France or England on a Concorde jet. I can't imagine anything more peak 1995 travel-wise than doing that. That's amazing. Yeah, I would love to do that. Mordecala says, you could do a GoFundMe page to do a video on the SS Great Britain in person. As much as I would like the community to buy me a holiday, if you guys are interested in sending me to Britain on a holiday, please donate. No. I'll get there myself. I'll get there eventually. You know, I do this for a job now, so I will. I'll find a way to get there. I do want to make a video. And that perfectly, thank you, Mordecailis, perfectly leads into my next point, which is about channel news. So A couple things. First of all, little housekeeping. As you guys know, the channel, I just mentioned this, the channel's turned 2. So it was our second birthday on the 17th. So for those of you who've been there for the whole 2 years, if you've been here a year, if you've been here a week, thank you so much, because we also just hit 87,000 subscribers, and we're probably due to hit about 100,000 by the end of the year, which is wild. So that's all thanks to you guys. So thank you so much. Again, love your work. It's a lot of fun doing this. So because of your support, I get to do this for my job and make as many videos and documentaries as I can. So I have a lot of fun. So thank you so much, guys. Just going to take a little detour from my news to another super chat from Nintendo Darkness 2's pledged $5, which is lovely. He says, would you ever do a what if video about White Star Line surviving and Cunard being absorbed? Would love to know your thoughts on what they sail in the modern day. Yeah, I had this idea for an alternate history where at the merger, at the point of the Great Depression, where White Star Line was building the Oceanic, the 3-funneled superliner, and you know, Cunard was planning Queen Mary, that White Star absorbs Cunard, even though I think it's a little unlikely, but say White Star absorbs Cunard. But then at the crucial moment, the decision is made that by the British Admiralty that in order for this to go ahead, in order for this merger to happen, you have to build the Cunard design super ship instead, because it is faster. It's the kind of ship that we'll need in wartime for a troop ship. It's all these things, and it ticks more boxes for the you know, British government in wartime. And you imagine like White Star Line signing on that, Cunard becoming absorbed, and Queen Mary Hull 534 being built at John Brown, but launched as the Oceanic, as with a different name, with White Star funnels. Would be really interesting. You imagine Oceanic, so Queen Mary becomes Oceanic, and then the Queen Elizabeth being launched as the second Olympic, you know, Olympic. You imagine that? Cool, huh? They were big fans of reusing names, so you imagine the two sisters, Olympic and Oceanic, carrying troops in World War II. I know that probably has a lot of you screaming on the inside. The British lads donated £2. It says, say about the Costa Concordia, shout out to Titanic. Yeah, Costa Concordia, I'd love to do a video on that. I know it's been covered a lot, but I think it's an interesting story. And I'd love to apply the Oceanliner Designs approach to making videos to the Costa Concordia. Which does lead me back into my news, actually. This is perfect. So here's the news. 2 big things are happening. Every time I go to tell you the news, I get a new super chat. I'm going to come back to this. I promise you. 8213 Productions. I will come back to you in a minute. I can answer this question. Okay, I'm going to answer this real quick. What was the most powerful conventional steam engine fitted to a liner? Triple expansion engine. I believe the most powerful triple expansion steam engine ever fitted to an ocean liner was on the German Kronprinzess in Cecilia, which was the last, I think, of the German Kaiser Wilhelm der Grosse series of ships. But if anyone disagrees with me on that, let him know in the comments. That's my understanding, is she had the most powerful reciprocating steam engines ever fitted to an ocean liner, which is pretty cool. Stephen Hemingway, £5, thank you, says he found my channel while looking at Sam's historic travels channel, which is very nice. Good to see the way you all talk and mix. We're all buddies. You know, at the end of the day, we're all ship nerds. We all make different kinds of videos, and we all like chat behind the scenes. Like you know, Sam's a friend, so yeah, it's always nice when he comes along. Okay, yeah, I've kept you all. Thank you so much for that super chat. I've kept you all on the edge of your seat because you're all saying, "Hey, can you please tell us the news?" Okay, 2 things are happening. First of all, Oceanliner Designs was founded 2 years ago. Actually, really, a number of years ago, 2018, I founded this business to illustrate. So I was an illustrator and I drew technical profiles of ships. I studied as an industrial designer, so my background is in concept design and artwork. I started making YouTube videos in lockdown in 2020 because it was absolutely miserable. Like Australia's, Melbourne's lockdown in Victoria was one of the worst at the time. You couldn't go more than 3 miles or 5 kilometers from your house in a radius. It was just unbelievable. So with nothing to do, I thought I'd start a YouTube channel. At the time, my area of well, and still a little, but my area of absolute expertise is probably in how these ships were built and operated. So it's always been my area, has been how ships, specifically ocean liners, are built and maintained and operated. And then the people side of it has always kind of trailed that as much as I'm interested in the world of, 1912 and the First World War and the Second World War. It was always about the mechanics and the engineering. So that's what separated Oceanliner Designs, I think, from maybe other channels. It's also been a little bit limiting because I don't know if a lot of you guys know this, but yes, I'm fascinated by the Titanic and ships, but my other areas of interest are airplanes. Like I'm fascinated by aircraft, airships, tanks and cars and just machines. Like I'm just big on machines. And although I've got a ton of ship books and Oceanliner books behind me and everything's nautical themed, that bookcase there is all Second World War stuff and Napoleonic. So this is a whole other area of interest of mine that I've never been able to explore. So to remedy this, two things are happening. Oceanliner Designs is going to expand its scope of interest. So instead of just making videos about oceanliners, which I know is a little bit funny given the channel's name is literally Oceanliner Designs. I'm going to put this hat on while I tell you this because it adds more authority and you might complain less. Oceanliner Designs is going to expand, and we're going to be looking at other topics, not just oceanliners. Now, I've already started doing this. I made a video on warships 2 months ago now on the HMAS Sydney, which we'll talk about more in a minute. And warships are, not oceanliner related, right? They're similar because they're ships. I want to start looking at other machines. I want to look at the British airship, the R101, and I'm going to be making a documentary about this this coming month and releasing it before Christmas. It's a fascinating story. It's a terrible tragedy. I want the channel to become a channel for disasters, for great machines from history. And we're going to start it with the R101. So that'll be the first documentary coming out next month on the channel that has been about anything other than oceanliners. It's an airship, so it's going to be a nice gradual pivot. But I think in future, we're going to see videos about airships and some aircraft. But at the same time, making videos about oceanliners still in the Titanic. So you'll still be seeing the regular oceanliner ship, how they built the Titanic, how they built the Queen Mary, how they built the Queen Elizabeth, that kind of video. But you'll also be seeing some other stuff. Why did the Concorde crash, for example? How did what happened to the airship Hindenburg and this kind of thing. So it's going to be a broader channel focused on the history of engineering and ships. So that's and other things that aren't ship related. So that's the first thing that's happening, right? Now the second thing is probably a little bit bigger. Before we do that though, I'm just going to answer two quick super chats. So we'll come back to this in a sec. Hold that thought. Leonardo Regini says, "Hey Mike, nice video on the Rex. Thank you. But what are your opinions on the Conte di Savoia?" People always ask me for my opinions on oceanliners, and I always have the same answer, which is, it's beautiful. I mean, what can I say? The Conte di Savoia, which again, like, I'm so sorry, my pronunciation of Italian is not great. I have no formal training, so sorry if I'm absolutely butchering this. But yeah, the Conte di Savoia, again, the Italian line's approach to offering a competitive product, if you will, in the North Atlantic and in the transatlantic trade was probably somewhere between, by the 20s and 30s, somewhere between Cunard line and French line, where they wanted to offer a floating art palace that was also the fastest at sea. And so, Rex and Conte di Savoia were very, very quick, and Rex was a blue ribbon holder, which meant she had the record for the fastest transatlantic crossing for a while. And Conte di Savoia was, again, a floating art palace on the inside. So, what can I say? Stunning ship, and I'm a big fan. I hope you're all not freaking out about my announcement that the channel's going to be diversifying. Sundry Zoo, who is a channel member and has pledged £5. Thank you very much, my friend. He says, "Mike, which is your favorite cruiser or clipper stern?" Oh, which is my favorite, the cruiser stern or the clipper stern? Personally, I used to dislike the cruiser stern, but it's grown on me. Yeah, I agree. For those of you at home, the clipper stern is kind of like Titanic's stern. It's based on the clipper ships, which were sailing trade ships from the 19th century. Very, very elegant looking. You've got what is called the counter, which is the round bit at the top, which then, it's like I'm doing this by interpretive dance. You've got the round counter that then sweeps down into like a knife edge where the rudder and the propellers are, and it was kind of like ubiquitous. It was on basically every merchant ship from about like 1850 through to 1920. And by then, there came a new stern style that you see on the Queen Mary, for example, called the cruiser stern. It was modeled off of warships, which, didn't have all the space all the time for these, elegant, clipper sterns. So they just simplified it, had it come to a point right at the stern of the ship, and then just kind of drop off. Still look pretty elegant. I think, it's signs of the times. It does look a little Art Deco. I do like it on the Queen Mary and the Queen Elizabeth. So I'm going to... don't make me pick between the two. Don't make me pick. That's a little difficult. Yeah. I'll say the clipper stern just for the nostalgia. I like it. But I like them both. Russell Foster says, please do the golden age of airships. Yeah, you got it. Don't worry. It's coming. And thank you for the super chat, as always. And I think that's all the super chats. Brilliant. Oceanliner Designs, Messi or Ronaldo? Messi is the greatest of all time, I think. Okay. Second bit of news, which I'll get through real quick because I know I've kept you all on tenterhooks, is that we are, when I say we, I'm working with a team now. So Oceanliner Designs is still very much my baby, and I do most of the editing and I do all the writing, but I do most of the editing and the animating and everything. But we're taking a team on board to help out. With this team, we're launching a second channel. The channel actually already exists on YouTube, but we're repurposing it. Previously, it would publish clips taken from television shows about history. We are taking control of it, and I'll give you all the link to it soon, and starting a whole new channel with myself as the presenter. It's called Time Travels, and it's going to be about history, general history. It's going to look at Chernobyl. It's going to look at failed and doomed Arctic expeditions. It's going to look at the First World War. All these things that I'm really fascinated by. You'll get the same kind of standard and quality of an Oceanliner Designs video, but we'll be looking at great stories from history. And it's going to be a whole separate thing to Oceanliner Designs. So while Oceanliner Designs will be about design and engineering and how these things were built or how they failed, Time Travels is going to be about why did Chernobyl happen? What if it didn't? What if it never happened? And so we'll still have this little alternate reality thing. So still the same old thing. It's going to be me. I'm still going to be wearing a suit. It'll be shot in a studio, so it's going to look totally different. But it's going to be really exciting. So if I give you guys the link soon, you can come along and see me on the new Time Travels channel, where we'll be talking about all other fascinating stories from history. I'll get to tell you guys some really interesting things. So if you have any of your favorite bits of history from literally any point in human history, ancient history, World War I, World War II, Napoleonic, leave a comment and I'll take note of it, because we're gathering ideas. We want to see what people are interested in when it comes to history. A lot of it's been covered a lot before in the past, but one of the things I'm really excited to talk about, for example, is the British preparations for the invasion of Britain by Germany, Operation Sea Lion, in about 1940. Why Operation Sea Lion probably would have failed really badly. This was the planned German invasion of Britain. That's really, really interesting. So I'd love to do something like that. So big news, super exciting for me, because it means just a ton of more work, but it also means that I'll get to talk about things I'm really interested in that aren't just Titanic related, which will be exciting. I think you guys are excited for that. I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up, which is really, really cool. For those that missed it, Oceanliner Designs is going to be doing videos on other things, not just ships, still doing Titanic stuff and other ships, but looking at the Hindenburg, looking at Concorde, looking at just machines from history. Time Travels is going to be our sister channel, and we're going to be looking at great history tales and great stories from history. So watch this space, because you guys are going to be the first to find out when Time Travels goes live, probably before the end of this year. So in a month. So I'll keep you posted on that. Erica Itsumi says, are you going to do a video on the Oceanos? Yeah, I just basically want to do a video on every sunken ship from history. Yeah, Oceanliner Designs videos are going to be longer. I'm going to make 30-minute, 40-minute documentaries on famous sinkings, so I can go into more detail and tell you guys about why these things failed. I think people are interested in longer videos because I know I am. Some of my favorite YouTube channels, like Brick and Mortar, for example, he makes 40-minute long documentaries. I get to lie down, eat my dinner, and watch a great TV quality documentary. So I want to start doing some of those, supplemented with shorter videos as well. But I think the average video is going to be about 30 minutes long in future. So just a ton more detail and great, beautiful animations. We've got some agreements for historical footage coming in that'll be really cool. So the quality and the standard of videos is just going to double. Thanks so much as well to my team. I'm going to be working with the team now, so very exciting. Oceanos is one I would love to cover and plan on. We have some more super chats. 8213 production says, definitely subscribe to the other channel, mate. Thank you. So glad you guys are excited. This is going to be really cool. Yeah, especially for the World War I and World War II stuff, you know. And we had a donation from, I just scroll past. Yeah, Lino Tagoni donated 99 euro cents. Thank you so much. Very much appreciated. RMS Segwan fan says, hello, love your channel. I don't know if this is too obscure a topic, but there is a ship in Ontario, Canada that is a coal-burning reciprocating engine steamship built in 1887, still does summer cruises. Wow, can you get me a name on that? I'd love to learn more about that and visit it and sail on it. Goodness, really? Yeah, please leave the ship's name in the chat and I'll go and have a look. I Am Boat says, wear the Oceanliner Designs hat in a video. Yeah, like a really serious video like where people trapped in the Titanic video from last week, and I'm just wearing a ship's officer's hat. Maybe not. Maybe I'll just keep this for the live streams. Prince Eugen says, make the first warship video about Prince Eugen. Yeah, well, I do have a video coming out that will be talking about the Prince Eugen, funnily enough. That will be on Oceanliner Designs. It's a video next month. It's about Bismarck and the Hood, and I'll be talking about Prince Eugen's role in the engagement. I'm making a video about Bismarck and the Hood. More warship stuff. I'm also doing a video soon about, there was a P&O liner. There was a couple, actually, that engaged German warships. So it wasn't the Viceroy of India. I have, oh man, I'm having a mental blank. There were two. There was one got bounced by the Gneisenau and the Scharnhorst, two German sister battleships. And she was an armed merchant cruiser escorting a convoy of, British passenger ships and cargo ships. And instead of running away, this P&O Oceanliner armed with little 6-inch guns turned around and fought Scharnhorst and the Gneisenau and was wiped out in like half an hour. But it's just one of the most incredible stories that the captain said, all right, lads, well, essentially we have to fight or die. And we're going to fight. And he turned around and this Oceanliner with its little 6-inch guns took on the Scharnhorst and the Gneisenau. It's like David versus Goliath. Truly incredible story. Just and Channel pledged $2 and said, planning to do warships like the Scharnhorst. Yeah, there you go. It's literally just talking about it. Yes, yeah, more like Oceanliner and warship stories from history for sure. The Stoned Abbott says, ever heard of the SS Farallon wrecked in Alaska, January 1910? There were 30 survivors who waited a month for rescue. A month for rescue. Can you imagine that? Some of these coastlines are so remote, these people have to wait a month just for anybody to find them. 6 guys rowed a canoe 200 meters or miles, maybe 200 miles for help. Incredible story. No, I've never heard of that one, but I'll give it a look. We had a lot of stories like that in Australia as well, because the coastline is so remote and so rugged that these ships, and one of them, you guys wouldn't believe this, the Cataraqui was an immigrant ship sailing from England to Australia. And this is wild. It was like a 4-month voyage or something ridiculous. And then a day out of Melbourne where she was meant to land, she hit a reef and was wrecked and broken apart, and all these people spent days clinging to the wreckage hoping for survival, and hundreds of these immigrant families died a day out from where they were meant to arrive. Is just wild. Very sad stuff. So no, I'll have a look at that. The SS Farallon. Thank you, Stoned Abbott. Dave surname, always wear that hat, Mike. Yeah, I'll just always keep it on for you guys. Excellent. Fixie Clary has joined as a channel member. Welcome aboard. RMS Segwon fan. Oh, I should have. Yeah, he says that the ship he was talking about that is sailing in Ontario is the RMS Segwon, which is super cool. I'll go and check that out. Very exciting to hear that there's still a ship sailing along. I'm sorry if my computer's glitching out, guys. I have to get a new computer. It's just having a bad time with the streaming software. It's not powerful enough by the looks of it. So I'll get a new one, and then maybe in future the streams will be a little smoother. And would love a video on the first fleet to Australia, says Russell. Yeah, that'll be cool. Again, that'll probably be more on the new history channel. So I'll take that down as a mental note that you'd love to see that. James Kubica says, love all the content you've been putting out. You should look into the Great Lakes ships. Plenty of ships worth talking about. No doubt. Yeah, fascinating. And the fact that they're all still so well preserved, those that sank, are really, really interesting. Of course, the Edmund Fitzgerald, probably the most famous, but all the others. I guess I never realized how big the Great Lakes are. I've never been to the US. I was really surprised to find out that they are that big. You all have some pretty big lakes over there in the US. Okay, well, I think we've gone through all our super chats for now. I thought I'd kind of tell you guys about some of my older videos. I mean, it's been 2 years that we've been making these, and it's been a big 2 years. So I thought it'd be fun to look back at some of my most popular videos and explain where they came from, and some of the behind the scenes stuff and why I dislike them or why I like them. Before I do that, I wanted to mention something that's really cool. This is part of the news segment that I forgot to go over, but there's something coming up. I'm in an event. It's going to be on December 2nd, for those of you in the US, at 7 p.m. On that Friday night. I'm joining the authors of On a Sea of Glass, which is really cool. And the new book that they've been working on, which I have some of my drawings in, recreating Titanic. So that's Tad Fitch, J. Kent Layton, and Bill Wormstead. We're going to be doing a live Zoom event. It's going to be a question and answer. And we're going to be talking all about the Titanic. We're going to be talking about Olympic, answering your questions live. I'm joining as a special guest with Titanic researcher and maritime historian Mark Chirnside. He's the author of... It's really handy having all these books on my desk from my research. Anyway, Mark Chirnside behind these books, Olympic and various others. Brilliant author and fascinating guy, great researcher. He'll be there. Samuel Halpern, who has written many fascinating articles about the Titanic, contributed to a lot of books and really knows his Titanic history. I'm going to feel totally outclassed, by the way, by my panel guests. They really know their stuff. I'll be there as well. There's a link on this stream's description where you can go and submit questions ahead of time. You can go and see what time the video is going to be, the live stream is going to be happening, and come along and join. It's going to be on Zoom, and you'll be able to talk about ship stuff and see us, talking about Titanic. It's going to be really fun, and yeah, again, these people really know their stuff, so come along. Erica Itsumi says that the ship was the yes, thank you, the Rawalpindi, which was the P&O Oceanliner that I was talking about that engaged Scharnhorst and Gneisenau. Unbelievable story. Go and read about it on Wikipedia. Suicidal, totally suicidal, but it enabled the other ships to get away, and it's just a fascinating bit of history. Or wait for the video that I'm planning on making. Leonardo Regini says, with €5 donated, what if scenario, the Rex, the Italian oceanliner, was never bombed, and Conte di Savoia was rebuilt in the 50s? What consequences will this bring on Andrea Doria's construction? Yeah, gee, that's a really good question. You wonder if the Italian line would have felt the need to build a whole new fleet of luxury liners in that space and time in the 50s if they had still some real beauties from the 30s that were still only, by that point, about 20 years old, or had only had service careers of 15 or 20 years. Would have been fascinating. I'm not sure. That's a really good question. Probably more research required, but I like to imagine maybe Andrea Doria's construction could have been pushed out a little more, or they still would have been keen to replace the older ships if they weren't lost in the Second World War. Yeah, no, that's a really good question. You've got me with that one. I can't I can't know either way. All right, look what I'm going to do. I'm just going to share my screen real quick and we can just talk about some of my old YouTube videos for a minute. And I'll give you a little behind the scenes. Let me know if this is lagging out too much, because if it is too much for my computer to handle, I might need to change tack. Anyway, this is my YouTube channel. Some of you may have seen it before. This is really cool. So these are my most popular videos, so the most watched. And right at the top of the list is the HMAS Sydney video, which I was really keen to do because, you know, it's an Australian story. Everybody in Australia kind of knows it. What I didn't get to talk about in the video, because I ran out of time, was there was one survivor, really, from Sydney. He was a sailor who was really badly injured, possibly in the engagement, and was put into a life raft, a Carly float, which the Sydney was carrying because all the lifeboats were smashed up, and set adrift and washed up on a beach. And he died, sadly, but his body, his skeleton, washed up on a remote beach in the Pacific, months after the Sydney was lost, and with no way of identifying him. The theory had always been maybe he was a crewman of HMAS Sydney. And it was only like within the last 5 years, I think, that they DNA tested his body and identified him and put a name to this face. And he actually was HMAS Sydney crew member. So this kind of like myth and legend turned out to be totally true. And he really was a Sydney survivor. Unfortunately, he got away from the ship, but he didn't survive out, you know, in the Indian Ocean, which is really sad. But you know, it's just fascinating. Sorry, did I just say he washed ashore in the Pacific? That's not true. That can't be true because the ship was lost. Yeah, not in the Pacific. But yes, he did wash ashore in a remote beach, which is really sad. The behind the scenes on this video is that I got absolutely obsessed with telling the story. It was meant to be a 15-minute short, hey, here's a brief history of what happened. But then I got obsessed with this idea of animating the whole gun battle. And the gun battle sequence goes for like 5 minutes. But it took me almost 100 hours. 100 hours to set up and animate. And I worked feverishly over a weekend. Without fail, I was sitting right here, suffering, making this video. And you guys can imagine me staying up all night, literally all night, 4 a.m. one night, 5 a.m. the next, and publishing this video. Yeah, it was feverish work. But anyway, it was a lot of fun, just a ton of work, because while the two ships are sailing alongside each other, firing at each other, you have to animate when Sydney fires a shot at Cormoran, where that shot will land. You have to animate the explosion point and make it look realistic. But then the whole other thing, you have to add all these sound effects and make them sound realistic. And there's one sound effect, I couldn't find the voice I wanted in German, and it's when they're swinging the deck gun around to point at Sydney for the first time. And it's actually me yelling in German. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I set my microphone up and, like, you know, yelled something really generic and basic, like, schnell, schnell, los, 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 while the gun was pointing around at Sydney. If you go back and listen, that's actually me yelling in German. So anyway, yeah, really proud of that video because, yeah, it's an Australian story and a lot of people watched it. The next one down the list was my SS United States video. And this was really like the first video I ever made with animation. I knew that animation would be the thing that would make this channel a little different. Other channels were doing it, like Mustard. They've got beautiful, beautiful animations on that channel. And I realized that I had this whole bank of drawings of ships that I've done. And I started experimenting with my friend Levi, who's working on the Lusitania game, and putting these drawings in 3D environments and seeing what they look like. And so I made the United States video the first time with any of my animations and really lent into the animation thing and had a lot of fun. But again, this was one of those videos that I'm trying to keep to a schedule. And I was working feverishly over a weekend, moving ships around. It was a whole weekend of work, you know, from like Friday night after work to Monday morning. And I had this, yeah, that's right. I had this finished and uploaded to YouTube Monday morning at 7 a.m. So I'd stayed up all night Sunday, had it finished Monday morning at 7 a.m. and then started my job because I was working as a digital analyst at 8 a.m. So I had an hour's break from this whole weekend of work, stayed up all night, and then had an hour's break to wash up, have a shower, get ready for work. And I'm glad I don't have to do that anymore. That was a whole thing. Anyway. The next one down the list was what I never would have expected. This was actually the first video on the channel to ever get a lot of views. And it was what happened to Olympic after Titanic sank. And I think this is what started the channel, you know, getting recommended to people. If you look at the analytics, which you guys can't, but I can, I started making these videos back in November 2020, made a couple, this was one of them, and then just let it go. And for months didn't do anything because it was just a hobby. And then something about the algorithm picked this video up and it went wild. For the time, getting 20,000 views was a lot. And so this video is one of the ones. If you watch it, I'm very stiff and formal. I think now I'm a lot more relaxed in front of the camera. Still maybe a little awkward, but back then I was very like, hello, my name is Michael Brady. Welcome to Oceanliner Designs. I am a robot. Very robotic. So sometimes I hate to watch my old videos because I would love to do them again and use what I know now. The one I'm really happy and excited to talk about is this. What if the Titanic never sank? Which was my first what if video. I got the idea from a totally random place. I was reading about this group of P&O ships, the Himalaya, the Iberia, the Tucson. There are all these P&O ocean liners built in the 1940s and 1950s after the Second World War. And I was reading about the middle sister ship, the Iberia, that although it should have been one of the nicest ships, it was larger, you know, she'd been built, learned all the lessons of the previous ship. She had a happy, you know, she had a great crew, great pedigree, should have had an exceptional career. It was the first one to be scrapped. Because it kept getting into collisions, because it kept having technological, you know, tech breakdowns, because it wasn't that well liked by passengers. And it got me thinking, like, what is it about this one ship, the middle child ship that wasn't working? You know what I mean? And then I was thinking, you know, well, Titanic was the middle child, you know, it was after Olympic, before Britannic. And I was thinking, you know, gee, I mean, what if Titanic didn't sink and then just had the most boring career of all time? So I make this video. Yeah, John Walters gets it. John Walters just left a comment that says, if Titanic never sank, mediocrity. And that was exactly the brief. I was like, taking the Titanic story, which is all the way up here in terms of drama. And then I thought, I know, what if I just make it the most uninteresting history, and then sprinkled it with little Easter eggs. So, you know, going to try to rescue the Carpathia, which is sinking. The Eddie Cantor movie, A Night to Remember. You know, little things like that. So I had a lot of fun, and then, you know, improved on that with the I've lost my train of thought because I just got a really funny super chat. Yes, with the Britannic video. Sorry. Anyway, actually, that's a good reminder. I probably should return to these super chats. Catherine Ryan's given $5 and says, any chance of a 1920s attired themed OnlyFans from you? You got to give the people what they want, you know, if there's appetite. Moving on. Thank you for the super chat. Erica Atsumi says, how would you rebuild the SS, the kitchen knife prince? I don't know. You guys remember my bad makeovers video? I was talking about the Hellenic Prince, which was a bizarre, ridiculous immigrant ocean liner to Australia that was built on an Australian seaplane tender. And I said it looks like a kitchen knife. And it does! It looks exactly like a kitchen knife. Go and check it out. How would I rebuild it? I wouldn't. I'd scrap it. I'd sink it. Send it to where it belongs, Davy Jones' locker. Airwicker says, hey Mike. Oh, here we go. Airwicker always leaves a comment that's designed to make me crack and laugh. Hey Mike, are you looking into doing perhaps more content on near-miss events like the nuclear warhead that was dropped on the USS Holland switch theory? That's kind of like half a serious question, and then he ends on a bit of a meme. Am I looking at doing more content into near-miss events like the nuclear warhead that was dropped on the USS Holland? Yeah, cool story, like super cool story, and absolutely would. And then just switch theory. Was there a USS Holland switch theory? I don't know. You know, I certainly haven't come across it. Okay. I think we're up to date on our... yeah, everyone's laughing at the OnlyFans thing. There we go. Tsunami says, I second the request for an Edwardian 1920s OnlyFans. Oh, man. Okay, we're keeping it historical. We're keeping it historical, professional. No one cares about me. It's all about the ships. It's all about the history. I'm just the vehicle for the ship delivery. Okay, we'll focus more on the ships. Okay, I'll give you one more behind the scenes insight on these videos. There are 3 videos that I would point out and say I am the most proud of these. The 3 are this Carpathia documentary, the United States documentary, and the Sydney documentary. And they actually weirdly have one thing in common, is that I actually never appear in them to talk at the camera. But in the Carpathia video, I played Harold Bride, or Jack Phillips, one of the wireless operators, because I had an old headset, and I've got the one of the wireless, the Morse, you know, Marconi. What do they call those? Gee, oh man, like another mental blank. Sorry, you've really thrown me out with this Oceanliner's OnlyFans thing. You've really, gee, I have to focus again. I have more coffee. You flustered me. I'm actually flustered. Morse key. That's what it's called. A Marconi Morse key. One of the things that did. So I just recorded close-up shots of me using what I thought was using the Morse key correctly, which is just tapping on it. And so many people commented saying, that's wrong. You're using it wrong. That's laughable. You're meant to just hold it. And, you know, like, and I got absolutely picked apart in the comments by the Morse key community, which I didn't realize was so active on YouTube. So I'm sorry for offending you. So I looked it up on YouTube, and there's a whole thing. There are competitions and world championships for straight key message delivery, for speed and accuracy. And I should have watched a few of those before recording the video. So if you see the back of this guy's head in that video, and he's doing more stuff, that's actually me in my other room shooting against a white wall. It was me. It was me all along. So there you go. Those are some of the videos that I'm probably the most proud of. There's been a lot. A lot of them are getting a lot of views, and this was a cool one actually. The what happened to Titanic's Grand Staircase Dome. This is the last one I'll talk about before we move on real quick to the final part of the stream. I got an email on this video from Ken Marshall, who painted the painting in the thumbnail. Now, it was pretty cheeky of me, which, you know, a bit cheeky to use his painting in the thumbnail. So when I made the video, I made sure to, like, just in the description, say, hey, credit to Ken Marshall for this painting. And he sent me an email and said, you know, thanks for crediting my painting, which I thought was lovely because his paintings are all over the internet uncredited. But second of all, he gave me some really interesting points on, you know, he's been down to the wreck a lot of times. He's studied the Grand Staircase, you know, and he's got his own theories on what happened to it. And he gave me probably enough material for another video. So I'll probably do something and talk about, you know, Ken's insight, maybe if he's happy to talk about that, maybe, or have me include some of his points. But yeah, he raised some pretty valid points around, you know, a lot of the still work at the landing, what that means, you know, where this whole structure could have got to. So that was really, really cool. Ken Marshall's work is the best in the business. You know, he's the best maritime artist. He's one of the best photorealistic painters of his generation. Started out as a matte artist on movies, painting before green screen visual effects on computers. You know, you had to get a guy in to paint backgrounds, and that was his job for a while there. So he's been in Hollywood a long time. Anyway, long story, but yeah, he reached out, and that was real cool. So one of the cool things that has happened thanks to this YouTube channel. We've got a couple more super chats which I'll read before we go to the last part of the stream. This is a long YouTube name, but I'm going to do my best. The Italki teacher, the Ashen Knights, has pledged 20 Canadian dollars, close to Australian dollars. We're both members of the Commonwealth. If Titanic didn't sink, it would have been totally overshadowed by the submarine ramming, troop carrying phenomenon that was the RMS Olympic. Yeah, I call Olympic the rampaging lunatic of the ocean. You know, it's like, oh, there's a submarine over there, full speed ahead, we're going to ram it. The Nantucket Lightship, you know, cutting that in half. The Hawk incident. I mean, you know, I don't know if White Star Line was just playing fast and loose with their ships. I think all ships back then had a lot of collisions. And then, of course, she was rammed backing out of New York, out of her berth in New York. She was rammed by a ship that fractured her stern frame, I think in 1925, thereabouts. And they had to have the whole thing heavily reinforced, and it was this whole situation. If you're interested in Olympics story, I don't know why I've got all these books close at hand, but I would highly, highly recommend this. It's Hull Down. It's the memoirs of Bertram Hayes. I've talked about this book a lot on the channel. Bertram Hayes was Olympics skipper during the First World War and a little bit afterward. And he was on the bridge and in command and decided to ram the U-boat. So he has his entire side of the story is in this book, and it's very, very interesting. And then if you just want a broader history of the Olympic, Mark Chirnside's book. This is, if you're an Oceanliner nerd, as I am, this is kind of like required reading. It's like a night to remember. It's like On a Sea of Glass. This should definitely be in a library. The Sway of the Grand Saloon. That's another book that should be in any Oceanliner fan's library. I don't have it in my library. So am I a real fan? I guess not. Speaking of fans, thank you for starting this whole OnlyFans thing, because it just keeps on going. Jorklin says, wouldn't Edwardian OnlyFans like have somebody showing their ankles, maybe their knees? Oh, how risque. Great work on the vids, been binging them. Yes, thank you. I'm very much, very, very glad you're enjoying the stuff. It seems like new people are finding the channel all the time, and what can I say? I started this for a hobby, so every one of you that watches my video and leaves a cool comment, and I read as many of them as I can. You know, you get a lot of trolls and a lot of like negative comments from people about all kinds of stuff, the way you look, the way you talk, if they think you're wrong about something. At the other end of the comments, there's a real person, you know, like I'm not some faceless, you know, production studio. I'm one person, and most comments as they come through, they flash up on my phone, so I see them in real time. So if any of you are, you know, making YouTube videos and disheartened by these negative comments as they come through, I don't know about you guys, but I take a lot more solace and comfort from these kinds of comments, people saying great work on the videos, I've been binging them. You know, you have to develop a bit of a thick skin and realize that the opinions of people who just want to ruin your day, they're miserable themselves. They want to ruin somebody else's day. How could you possibly complain about what fundamentally free content on the internet? You know, no one can help the way they look, you know? So yeah, I wouldn't let any of it get to you. I know this is a random tangent, but I think a lot of people, they forget. It's very easy with the benefit of anonymity on the internet to, you know, troll someone or try to ruin someone's day. But, you know, just remember, very few of these people would have the moxie to say it to your face. And yes, I did just unironically use the term moxie. Am I actually from the 1920s? Nobody knows. There you go. That's my feel-good message to almost end the stream on. Almost, because I do have to show something. This was a promise I made to an Oceanliner Designs patron and moderator and long-term friend of the channel, Alexius, who is an overall good guy, really cool modeler. He uses Minecraft to make ships, and he's made a model that I'm really interested in, and I know you guys will be interested in too. Road Weary says, forget about the trolls, my friend. It's just people who lead sad lives. Keep doing you. A little coffee. Like, cheers my coffee to you. Yeah, I've got a thick skin. It doesn't bug me. You know what I mean? You know, I've got a pretty decent sense of humor. I find a lot of the comments very funny. And I can't repeat them to you because some of them are so rude, but they crack me up because they're very funny. But I would say that, yeah, it would be disconcerting for somebody. I know a lot of kids want to go out and become YouTubers. You know, that's like the big new thing. I want to be a YouTuber. It's a lot of work. I just told you guys I was staying up, you know, a whole weekend. It's a ton of work if you want to make good stuff. And you also have to deal with some, the negative aspect of the internet, unfortunately. But I got to tell you, for every one negative comment I get, every troll comment, I must get 1,000 other positive comments. You know, even now, Steve Hollis, he's saying absolute top channel in the chat there. You guys, you know, we've had 200 and something, almost 300 viewers this whole time. I feel very well supported, and every time I talk to you guys, it's like I'm just talking to friends. I wish you could all talk back to me in real time. I wish we were like hanging out in a auditorium or something. It would be, but yeah, so it always just feels like I'm hanging out with my friends. So you guys make it easy for me, so thank you. Now then, time for Alex's moment. We're going to show off his Olympic model. And can I just point out as well, no technological problems so far. I know it's been a little bit laggy, granted, but how seamless was that transition? How seamless, look, to go from this to this. I'm getting better at this. Not bad for a 1920s time traveler, huh? Getting the hang of computers. We've got 2 more super chats. Erica Itsumi. Erica says, thanks so much, Erica. You've been pledging so much tonight. Did you ever find the staircase floating on the surface of the water after the... Oh, sorry. Did anyone ever find the staircase, of Titanic's grand staircase, floating on the surface of the water after the disaster? No, there... potentially, I think someone mentioned they saw the banister of a staircase. Obviously, Titanic's first class grand staircase had wrought iron in the center of the banister. Whether or not the handrail would have detached from the banister sinks and the handrail floats, but it probably wouldn't have looked anything really like a staircase. When the Barragoula sank, which was the little Sydney ferry, it sank in January of this year, I saw a whole banister from a staircase, carved wood, so like Titanic, carved oak, I think. Potentially pine, but I think oak. The whole handrail with elaborate scroll work, and then the beautiful little columns had just ripped off the stairs and was floating in one piece on the ocean. And that's kind of what inspired me to make the video comparing the Barragoula's sinking. And this ship sank slowly, relatively, and gently at its birth. Not nearly as quickly, probably, and violently as Titanic did. And yet still, the water in that ship was like a meat grinder and tore all of this stuff up and all this beautiful wooden paneling. This ship was just 100 years old. It was built in 1922. And all of that timber paneling while she sank got ripped out and up. And I saw a whole staircase piece floating off by itself. So I think, you know, one thing that was spotted after the Titanic sinking was a field of cork. After the Titanic disaster, there was cork everywhere. Apparently, it was just floating everywhere. Cork was used as insulation in many of the pantry spaces on Titanic where the break was. And in theory, very, buoyant. And so as Titanic broke apart, all of this stuff just spewed out, and a whole field of cork was spotted floating on the surface. Moose has pledged 20 Canadian dollars. Thank you. Very Canadian name, Moose. Hey, Mike, absolutely love your drawings. Do you ever plan on drawing the Britannic or the Georgic? The MV Britannic or the Georgic? Absolutely, I plan on doing that. Unfortunately, yeah, it's a little ways off because drawing at the moment is very difficult for me to find the time to do it. It's something I do for a hobby, but unfortunately, don't really have a lot of time for hobbies at the moment. So maybe in the future, I'll keep working hard at the channel. We'll start the new time travels channel, and then we'll see where we end up. Okay, well, here we go. This is Alexius's Olympic model. Now, what you might notice is a little bit different about this Olympic, that it's only got one mast. And no, that doesn't mean that this is unfinished, because this is Olympic as designed in 1908. This is the 1908 Design D that was presented to White Star Line by Harland and Wolff executives in 1908. In theory, I think J. Bruce Ismay would have been in attendance, Lord Peary, and all the early designers on the Olympic class project. I don't think Thomas Andrews was involved at this stage of the design of Olympic or Titanic. I think it would have been Edward Wilding and the other Harland and Wolff design team. But what's interesting about this is it kind of laid the foundation for what the Olympic and the Titanic would be. And it's very much in the tradition of older White Star Harland and Wolff ships. But there are a few key differences between this design and what the Olympic and the Titanic would look like. One of the things you might notice straight off the bat, and again, this is Alexius's Minecraft model, is that there are no lifeboats forward on the boat deck here. They're all about midway down. Now, whether or not this was actually what they wanted the boat layout to look like is kind of up for debate, because forward here, this is mostly the officers' promenade, and then this section here is the first class entrance. So that's part of the first class promenade. Having the boats cluttering the entire first class promenade aft probably wouldn't have sat that well for first class passengers. So I don't think they were thinking too heavily around where the boats are going to go or how many we're going to be carrying at that point. On the design, you can just see they like just chucked them all down on the after end of the boat deck like this and just said, that's good enough. For representative purposes, potentially. The other thing you'll notice is that down here on B deck, this is a really nice detail by Alex. He's got this as an open promenade, which is very much in the tradition of older White Star ships. They had multiple levels of open promenade, like a layer cake on the ship's superstructure. And this is probably like quite realistic, I think, to what the design would have looked like. Of course, on Olympic, they slapped some screens on it, so there were big square windows running all the way down. By the time they built Titanic, they realized that this promenade space would have been probably better used with staterooms and cabins. So this is one of the big differentiators between Titanic and Olympic, is that this B deck section on Titanic was filled, instead of having just a wide promenade, was filled with the most luxurious cabins on the ship that Olympic didn't have early on. For the most part, this was all suites, private, that's a little section of private promenade, and then beautiful rooms that Olympic really didn't have. And then right at the after end down here is where they put the Café Parisien, which became one of the most popular rooms on the ship, so much so that Olympic got her own Café Parisien after Titanic sank. The other thing that's missing or different, as you can see, is there's no mast back here at the after end of the ship. And in theory, they wanted Titanic to look as modern as possible. Masts were a bit of a bygone era, and wireless and antenna technology aside, the only reason you'd need a foremast here at the front is for your crow's nest, the lookout position, which you can see here, and your cargo derrick, which you can see here, this little stick pointing up, which is used to load heavy cargo. What Alexius has done is accounted for the lack of a second mast and strung the wireless aerial for the Titanic here between funnels, for the Olympic, sorry, between funnels 1 and 2. Now, the range on that arrangement would probably be pretty pathetic in comparison to having the wireless antenna strung between the two masts, as it would have been. You would have had the mast back here and then the wireless antenna running. Gee, how far is that? Maybe 700 feet? You know, a good, almost, 200 meters or so, running the length of the boat deck at least. Crazy range on that. So it meant that Titanic's wireless men could work Cape Race themselves mid-Atlantic without needing to rely on a chain of other ships, receiving the information. So I don't know what kind of range that would get, that you wonder if Titanic and Olympic were built like this. If Titanic's wireless range was not sufficient to reach all the other ships in the area, and Californian's wireless was off for the night and couldn't have relayed information either, you wonder if Titanic would have been able to fire off a distress signal that was picked up by Carpathia. And if, in my other video, how Titanic's sinking was almost way worse, if Titanic would have simply disappeared. If there was no sign of the ship, she struck a berg, no one received or responded to the distress call because the range wasn't sufficient, and Titanic simply disappeared, would have been a very chilling story, and possibly even one of the great unsolved mysteries of today. We might be sitting around saying, I might have been making videos on what happened to the Titanic. You know, people assume it may have hit an iceberg and sunk on its maiden voyage. No survivors. You imagine that? Anyway, that's enough of a tangent. Let's have a look inside. This is the bridge. So again, something really interesting about this early design was the bridge front. On this, it's curved at the front, and then there are no enclosed cabs up here. So on Titanic and Olympic, of course, they receive little enclosed cabs. Here we've got what looks like a big awning structure. So I love these things, awnings. They're really cool. They're basically just a framework. In rough weather, or if it's too sunny, either or, you can put canvas on top and turn your ship into a convertible. That's pretty authentic looking, you know, like this isn't how the ship was built, but that's pretty true to other White Star steamers of the time. They were covered in these weird and wonderful awning structures to protect passengers and crew from rain. And Titanic actually had a big awning just aft of the first funnel. Here, you can actually see it on Alexius's drawing. His model. This long stick here running from the back of the first funnel here is a part of an awning structure. And in theory, it could have been rigged to run canvas, possibly down to protect equipment if they wanted to stow it on the roof of the officers' quarters. It's just one of those things that could have been used to like add a little protective area for a temporary storage. It's just an interesting little detail. As a kid, I always kind of wondered what that thing was. Here's the bridge front. This is beautiful looking. How cool, huh? Here we've got, looking down the port side of the Design D Olympic, you can see right into that open promenade running all the way down. Credit to Alexius, who's put rivets running down the side of the ship, which is very cool. This is a really nice detail as well. These lifeboat davits here. Those are radial davits. That's a radial davit. That's a type of lifeboat installed on earlier ships. Very, very old style of lifeboat going back to the 18th century. You would have seen those on the side of the Lusitania. What marked Titanic's design out from earlier ships is that they worked in conjunction with Axel Wellen, who was a Scandinavian, I think he was Swedish, designer and engineer. Really made his name with the Admiralty and the Royal Navy, designing breeches for guns, and came up with this idea for a davit, the davit being the crane that launches the lifeboat. Now, the way radial davits work is they swing out, so they can only pivot 180 or 360 degrees around on the same axis. They swing a boat out and drop it down, which is fine, but they're a bit clunky and kind of clumsy. The way the Welland davit worked was very different. It was designed to crank out to the side, drop a lifeboat down, then crank back all the way in, pick up a second row of boats and drop them and crank them back out and drop them into the water. This was for the Admiralty, for use aboard dreadnoughts and battleships, because they had such limited space to store lifeboats on the cluttered decks of these warships, that having two rows of lifeboats would have been super, super useful, and having a davit that could reach the second row, drag it all the way out and over the side of the ship was kind of revolutionary. So the Welland davit became ubiquitous on ships of the time. White Star and Harland and Wolff, in their desire to make Titanic and Olympic as modern as possible, installed Welland davits on the ship's decks. And Axel Welland presented a plan to White Star, recommending a second row of boats inboard of the outer row. And White Star and Harland and Wolff didn't think it was necessary. They thought it would have probably confused passengers seeing that many lifeboats. You know, you think if you get on board a ship and it's absolutely covered in more lifeboats than any other ship you've ever seen in your entire life, you might start to question the ship's safety. Like, how confident are the builders in this ship, right? So they ended up foregoing the second row of lifeboats. But yeah, the Welland davits were a fascinating bit of technology. Okay, let's go inside real quick. This is the first class entrance. So this is the grand staircase inside. And what you might notice that is different to the final design is how basic this staircase is. We're so used to seeing that beautiful, sweeping, big staircase. But originally, the plans show just a normal set of stairs leading down into the bottom of the ship. This was standard for for ocean liners of the time, other White Star Line ships. Lusitania and Mauretania had staircases just like this. You can just see it here. It just drops off and you just walk down like a normal set of stairs. The Titanic's Grand Staircase and the Olympic's Grand Staircase were totally bizarre and part of this attempt at tricking passengers on board into thinking they weren't on a ship, but were instead in one of the grand hotels in Europe or Britain. And that was just one of those things that they put in to mark Titanic and Olympic out from other ships of the time. But, you know, for its time, this probably would have been more what would have been expected. That's why Titanic and Olympic were so, I think, you know, revolutionary in terms of the quality of their luxurious appointments for the time. So this is cool. We're going through now. I think this is the first class lounge. Just pause for a minute to take some super chats. Mindless Shark says, "Keep up the great work, Mike." Thank you, Mindless Shark. Really appreciate it, my friend. Thanks. I think there was another one at the top. I think all you guys are talking a lot about the beautiful model that Alexius has made here. Leonardo Regini says, I once read about the Yongala, nice ship and wreck. Yes, yeah, very cool. We do love a bit of Australian maritime history, so the Yongala is very interesting if you get the chance to read about it. And in fact, maybe I'll make a video, so you may not have to read about it. I'll save you some reading. Alex is posting the link to his Minecraft builds. This is the lounge, beautifully set up. Again, like super luxurious for the time. You can see that the dome is still here. So this had a domed. How would you describe it? There was a raised deck house above the lounge with a small dome. It didn't let natural light in, but on the finished ships, it had a beautiful Art Nouveau light fixture that was just absolutely stunning. It's nice to see the dome is still here. This is the dining saloon. Speaking of domes, one of the criticisms of Olympic and Titanic and the Olympic class in general was the dining saloon. Now, even though it was very wide and very long, it was not very tall because it didn't have a cutout, it didn't have a dome, it didn't have multiple levels. It was just, I forget how tall D-deck was. It was one of the taller decks on the ship, but it was in the region of 10 to 12 feet tall. And that was it. It meant that you had a room that was very hot, very stuffy. All these electric lights burning, these early electric lights. It was very, very hot. And they were constantly trying to improve the ventilation for this space through Olympic and Titanic's brief, but Olympic's career. Not only that, but Lusitania and Mauretania and other ships' dining saloons were uber grand. I mean, Lusitania and Mauretania was multiple decks tall. It had a second, whole second row of second level of seats and dining tables. The original design for Olympic and Titanic called for a dome. So there would have been a vacant space up on C deck and maybe into B deck with a domed roof. Now the dome would have just been decorative. There would have been no natural light coming through, but it would have opened and elevated a lot of the space up and opened out the dining saloon. It was just never fitted. They actually used this space on C deck. This would have been all, I'm fairly certain this is just all passenger cabins abreast of this domed area. In the middle here, I think there was bathrooms, maybe just like passenger amenities and things like that. They never fitted the dome. Maybe didn't think it was necessary. I wish they did, because it only again would have elevated, pun intended, Lusitania, Olympic and Titanic's interiors. There you go, Lusitania and Olympic switch theory. New conspiracy theory. Here's the smoking room, super cool. It's just one of my favorite rooms on the ships, the smoking room. Very nice and gaudy, colorful. I don't know if any of you guys have ever been into a room where people smoke. I used to help out in a bar in Victoria. It was one of the last places you could smoke inside. It was a cigar lounge, and it would have been exactly like this. People walked in. We used to have groups of people walking in. It was also a cocktail bar. They'd walk in, be hit by this wall of smoke, and turn around and walk straight out. I probably shortened my life expectancy 5 years just working or helping out in that bar, just a few months. Anyway, it always reminded me of this. I can smell photographs of the smoking room that you know, you can imagine. They employed a number of ventilation units specifically for extracting smoke from this smoking room on Olympic and Titanic. But Olympic was launched with fewer ventilators than were necessary, and Titanic fixed that. She had a lot more vents and fans designed for drawing out stale air and smoke, and they improved Olympic by adding a lot more. Jan Gottner says, the vaping room. Yes, this was the first class vaping room. Matt Grant says, is anyone still laughing at OnlyFans? Yes, on the inside, I'm still laughing at OnlyFans. Yes, I'm still flustered about that. Thank you. So there you go. That's my introduction to Alex's Olympic Design D. If you want to explore it and have a look around, there's more interiors. You can head on over to the website that that Alex has posted in the chat here. I might put a link in the description of the stream. So there you go. Been 2 hours. That was like the fastest 2 hours. Has it been? No, it's been an hour and a half. I said the stream would be an hour and a half. We're getting towards the end. I just wanted to thank you all for joining. Chan Cotton says, yeah, the most ironic thing ever was smoking rooms on airships filled with explosive hydrogen. Yeah, the Hindenburg had a smoking room, which is a surprising fact. Absolutely filled with asbestos so that fire wouldn't spread, I'm sure. Speaking of airships, just to remind you all, yeah, keep an eye out. The R101 video will be coming out soon. The R101 was Britain's Hindenburg, I guess you'd call it. It was an airship that crashed in 1930. It was an absolute disaster. It was fascinating. It's very, very sad. I believe it was its maiden voyage as well. It crashed in the French countryside and killed, I think, 98% of the people on board. I think there were only a handful of survivors. So it's a fascinating story. It's going to be beautifully animated. Keep an eye out for that one. I know it's not ship related, but it is an airship. So technically, it fits with the channel. I should be saying these things again while wearing the cap because it just sounds more like authoritative. You guys, there you go. Oh no, I've put it the wrong way. Watch the R101 video. Well, guys, I wanted to thank you all so much for joining. This has been real fun. I wanted to do more of these more often, and I will. I'm going to get a better computer so it's not as laggy in the future. Keep an eye out. Come join me on December the 2nd. I'm going to be sitting down with the authors of On a Sea of Glass. I put a link in the description of this video. You can go and ask questions, submit them via Google form. We'll answer them. It's going to be me, Tad Fitch, Kent Layton, Bill Wormstedt, Samuel Halpern, brilliant Titanic researcher, and Mark Churnside, who is a seriously gifted researcher and brilliant author. So come along and join. And me. I'm just kind of, I'll be there. I don't know. These people know their stuff. I know a little, so I'll do my best to keep up. Catherine Ryan. I have to, unfortunately, I'm legally obliged to address all the super chats. So I will say that, there will be no OnlyFans. I'm sorry. We'll see. Stephen Hemingway, last super chat of the night. Regarding the R101, one survivor was actually in the smoking room of the R101 disaster. And if that isn't irony, then I don't know what is. That's fascinating. Well, there you go. You'll be sure that I will be including that little factoid in the video. Well, guys, thank you so much. It's been really great hanging out. I love taking your questions. As always, stay safe, stay happy. I'll see you again next time. Bye. Let's see if I can figure this out. How do I go? Oh, here we go. Got it. See you guys.